A very good evening. You are watching Sports Tonight live, and for the next hour we're talking betting for Euro 2012. We're just, of course, 5 days away from the start of the tournament. We can't wait. I'm not going to do it on my own. In the studio with me tonight, Chris Graham, odds aficionado, and we've got also Wayne Veysey, chief correspondent of Goal.com. Gents, you're both very welcome. It's amazing, isn't it, Chris, that, OK, only friendlies for the last few weeks, and yet the odds on several teams have shifted quite dramatically.
I think because the results have been that shocking. There's been a few really shockers, a few WTF results, if you want to use text language. Switzerland beating Germany 5-3, Holland losing to Bulgaria, Russia destroying Italy on Friday night, and that, I think that's really giving point of something to think about, and that's probably why the odds have shifted a wee bit.
A lot of the fancy teams, Wayne, haven't had the best build-up. We'll talk about England in a moment, but we've seen the Germans beaten by the Swiss. We've seen the Dutch beaten by the Bulgarians, albeit they got 6 last night against Northern Ireland. Should we be reading much into these friendly results or not?
And of course there was Italy on Friday night.
Yeah, 3-0 against the Russians.
I think we should and we shouldn't, because sometimes in these matches there's experimentations, and also managers have been resting players who had particularly heavy finishes to the season. Thinking of the teams who are in the Champions League. Germany rested a lot of the Bayern Munich players in their first friendly, and obviously England did the same with their Chelsea contingent. So managers have to take into account how fresh players are and to prepare them accordingly. But nonetheless, it is a little bit of a barometer, and as Chris says, that's how odds do change.
Now, I know many of you at home may have backed England, maybe you haven't, I'm not sure, but their price suggests there's patriotic money for them. It never rains but it pours, literally, of course, today for Roy Hodgson. Cahill out with a broken jaw. Now, if I'd had a few quid on England, I would be rather irked, to say the least, that Martin Kelly's been called up. Nothing against Martin Kelly, but that Martin Kelly should be preferred to Rio Ferdinand, a man with 80-odd caps, who clearly is a better defender than Kelly. Kelly may have a great career in front of him. He's still young. There's something obviously going on with England. Hodgson says it's footballing reasons. Ferdinand himself today on Twitter, what reasons, and 5 question marks. What on earth's going on? Shouldn't they tell us?
Well, it's clear that there is football issues here today with John Terry. That's you can just imagine Rio Ferdinand sitting in his grand mansion in Cheshire or whatever, just getting angrier and angrier and angrier about what's happening here. It's a crazy situation, and that's reflected in the price. England were 16-1 yesterday, which is the biggest price they've ever been in the history of football betting for a tournament. Cut back into 14s after last night's result. As short as 9s though in some places.
Which is fascinating, isn't it? For there to be a 5-point disparity about England.
Yes, I know.
It's bizarre, Wayne. I've never known that before.
It'd been really interesting if it had been Terry who'd got injured rather than Cahill, because Terry did have that hamstring injury yesterday, and presumably the scan's all clear, or there's going to be another scan. Whereas, if Cahill's gone, if Terry had gone instead, would Ferdinand then have come in? Because obviously, those issues that have happened. Ferdinand and Terry are not compatible, presumably, we're told. Is that the reason? Is that the reason Kelly's been called up? Because for footballing reasons, doesn't make any sense whatsoever.
No, indeed not. More about England later, but there have been some other interesting friendlies over the last couple of days. The one that caught my eye last night, Portugal won Turkey 3. Now, I've got quite fancy for Portugal, and that result surprised me. Ronaldo did miss a penalty in that game, but even so, to get beat 3-1, just, 6 or 7 days before they play their first game. Not ideal preparation for Paulo Bento.
Not at all. They drew in Macedonia the week before, 0-0. So it's not been the most, you're right, the ideal preparation. Still at 20-1 best price to win it. But I was doing a bit of research, Trevor, on how teams who won the championship got on in the friendlies before the competition started, and you want your teams to be winning here according to the stats. Spain played 3-1-3 in 2010. Holland got to the final 2 years ago, played 3-1-3. Spain in 2008 played 2-1-2, and Italy in 2006 played 2-drawn-2. Sorry. So if you've lost a friendly, none of the teams who've won the competitions lost friendlies in the run up to it in the last 4 competitions.
Interesting.
Does that mean England are going to win there?
Well, it bodes well.
Yes.
It bodes well.
2-1-0 wins. We're champions elect.
That's all Spain did in last World Cup, was it? 1-0 all the way.
That will work. No one will complain if Roy's team win 1-0 every game. One other interesting result, not so much the result, but I don't know if you saw it, Wayne. Poland 4, Andorra 0. Now, on the face of it, no surprise there. But why would you pick a team that are ranked the 4th worst in the world. They actually have 0 points on the FIFA coefficient, Andorra. Now, clearly, okay, you can say, well, he wants to give them a morale boost. But, I mean, your average conference team would beat Andorra. Why would you pick such weak opponents?
And I don't know. And the odd thing is, because Spain and Poland have only played friendlies, haven't they? For
no competitive game for 2 years.
For 2 years. So if any team sort of needed sort of mediocre or stronger opposition, it's Poland, rather than just having minnows to sort of bash away. I don't know. I mean, is it a logistical thing? Is it something because their training camp? I don't know. But I mean, it's. Poland go into the tournament as a complete unknown quantity against decent opposition.
As indeed do Ukraine, Chris, don't they?
Yes, they do. And
no money for them, presumably.
Yeah, they're stranded at I think about 40 to 1 at the moment.
Yeah.
A lot of money for Poland actually, over the last 7 days.
Has there really?
Into 33 to 1.
Obviously, that Andorra team was better than I thought.
Yeah, which is a bit baffling. But you're right, Ukraine, decent results leading up to this. They brought blocking back in, of course, to the quarter-finals in 2006. But I don't fancy any of the hosts, which we'll come to now.
Now, the Dutch played Northern Ireland. To be fair, it was about a third choice Northern Ireland side. They beat them 6-0 last night, a couple for RVP. Doesn't prove much, does it, Chris, really?
No, well, to be fair, it was probably, a second-string Northern Ireland side. I think Merthyr Tydfil could probably beat them. It wasn't the strongest outfit. But
perhaps they should have played Andorra.
Yeah,
and then Holland should have played
better,
Poland.
Yeah. I think long gone are the days of Northern Ireland beating Spain 5 years ago. We saw during the Sanchez.
Good old Jerry Armstrong.
Yeah, 82 as well, of course. You're right. No a great test, but comforting if you're a Holland back at see them notch 6. They were 7-4 to win, giving Northern Ireland a 3-goal start. So they weren't expected to win by that much according to the bookmakers.
Right. What do you make of the Dutch, Wayne? Because they're third favourites in the overall market. Before this match against Ireland, their progress hadn't been particularly good in friendlies. They were great in the group. There are a few question marks defensively, aren't there, about the Dutch? Yeah,
there are a few question marks. They're a bit. They lack pace at the back. They can be torn apart. I mean, they have got very good goalkeepers. All 3 of their goalkeepers, Vaughan, Stekelenburg, and Krul, they're all outstanding, but they're going to pick one of them, of course. Defensively in front of them, I don't think they're quite as good. They've got lots and lots of flair there. They can create goals. The one thing I'd say to them now compared to 2 years ago is Sneijder's not playing anywhere near the level he was.
Yes, and he was such a key man for them at the World Cup.
Completely. The playmaker behind the front 3. He was pulling the strings, creative, inventive. He was the star player. He's not playing at the same level. We expect him to start the tournament. Whether he'll finish it, whether he'll go all the way with Holland, I'm not so sure. And I was at the England-Holland friendly when obviously Holland came from behind brilliantly.
Yes.
Robben was outstanding that night. They will score goals, I think, and I think they're very, very dangerous. We could see some high-scoring games involving Holland. Obviously, you mentioned Van Persie already.
Yeah.
He goes into the tournament on a high, and he could easily win the Golden Boot, couldn't he?
All right, we'll talk a bit in more depth about these teams later in the show when we look at every opening game. But let's have a look at the outright odds, because as you've heard, they are changing all the time. There you go, chaps. We mentioned the Dutch are in as third favourite. Spain just about holding off Germany for outright favouritism. England at 9-1. You really have to be optimistic. The French are 11s, of course, in England's group. Italy, a bit of an unknown quantity and going in off the back of a little bit of scandal as well, to say the least. Portugal are a shorter price than they have been, even though they lost last night to Turkey. And the Russians at 20s. We haven't talked about the Russians, and maybe we should. They are big favourites to win their group. We'll look at that in a moment. But they were excellent 4 years ago. They came third in the end, I think, or fourth. They got to the semis. Can they go one better here?
I don't think so. They don't score as many goals as
it is the same sort of the same players, though, basically.
Yeah, I don't think they've trained on as people expected they would.
Right,
have.
okay.
I think the creative flares in there. Arshavin's a shadow of his former self, as Arsenal fans will tell us. As short as 18-1, so the money's coming from the last. They were cut after the win on Friday night against Italy. They've got a peach of a draw in Group A, but I think their adventure will end in the quarterfinals.
What do you make of the Russians? Because they've got a couple of young players. Zagoev in particular is a good player.
Yeah, and they've got goals up front. They're unpredictable. The ones we know from the Premier League are Arshavin, Pogrebnyak from Fulham, and Tottenham Pavlyuchenko. Yeah. They're a bit hit and miss, but they're quite solid. They're technically very good. And also, I think they're the best prepared, and I think they'll be the fittest team at the tournament. the reason I say that, they've brought in Raymond Veysey, who's very close to Cavakar. He's been preparing them. He's an outstanding conditioning guru, and he has got a great track record at tournaments with Holland and with South Korea in the past. So they will be outstandingly well prepared. They won't get players injured, pulling hamstrings in training, or like all the England players. You know, they don't. If you're tired, if you're not tired, don't train them too much.
Is it just bad luck?
No.
That all these.
No.
So what is it? Why are England players falling like dominoes at the moment?
It's poor management of schedules. It's not taking into account how fresh they are. They're trying to get them. They're trying to train them too hard, and they're exhausting them.
But you can't blame that for the Cahill injury, surely. That was
not
just
for the Cahill. Obviously, you know, he'd need a gum shield and a face guard and everything else. But certainly for the Lampard one, certainly for the Terry one, it's because they're overloading them in training. You know, the golden rule is, you know, if a player's more tired, he's more likely to pick up an injury. Every fitness expert tells you that. All
right, now fascinating stuff. We're through the first part already, and we haven't even mentioned the defending champions and the favourites, Spain. We'll do that in a moment. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're watching Sports Tonight Live, and we are talking about your two favourite subjects, Euro 2012 and betting. Now then, let's look at Group A first of all, and the opening matches. The first game, Poland-Greece, chaps. Now, probably not the most glamorous opener there's ever been to a major tournament, but an interesting game nonetheless. And of course, just because it's not necessarily glamorous doesn't mean that there isn't some betting value to be had. Yeah. Personally, I think Greece have been a little overlooked by the layers in this group. Not saying they're going to win the tournament, but they're quite a big price to beat the Poles here.
I'd echo that 100%, Trevor. I think the outsiders that are four in this group, which I can't quite get my head around, unbeaten in the group stages. They won this in 2004. I think they're the second highest ranked team at the four as well. It does. I certainly wouldn't be back in Poland in this opening game.
What do you think, Wayne?
I think cagey teams tend to do quite well in tournaments and in competitions, and they are very cagey. They're defensively resilient, don't score many goals, but you don't need to score many goals do you, to win football matches and to progress. And the group they're in, you know, I could quite easily see them reaching the quarterfinals.
And old Georgie Karagun is still going strong in midfield, about 338 caps. He's still their main man. He's still the man they look to for inspiration. It's incredible, isn't it?
Nothing's moved on. They need a lot of inspiration in Greece, don't they?
What about the Poles? Because there's been quite a lot of attention on Robert Lewandowski of Borussia Dortmund. Got a hat-trick, of course, in the German Cup final. He's had an excellent season. Won the Bundesliga, of course, with Dortmund. The question I have to ask, though, is how much service is he going to get? Because you look at that Polish midfield, it's not packed with superstars, is it?
No, not at all. But I mean, it's funny you mentioned Lewandowski. It is the most fashionable bet of Euro 2012.
Yeah.
You go to dinner parties on Saturday night. Maybe back for gold boot or back to Robert Lewandowski at 25-1. You know, I got about 150 though. You know, as well. You know, everyone's talking about Lewandowski at the moment. He is he's someone who could really be exciting in this competition.
And the Greeks are pretty well organised, Wayne, aren't they? I mean, again, we've mentioned no superstars in the side, but in qualifying, they didn't put a foot wrong hardly.
No, they qualified very comfortably.
Unbeaten, I think.
Yeah, unbeaten, but you know, you've got to have a little bit of inspiration to win games. I mean, I can't see them progressing beyond the quarterfinals. I put Russia as the strongest team in Group A.
Yeah.
But you know, they play Group B in the quarterfinals, so you're looking at a Holland or Portugal or
Tough.
Germany. It's very, very difficult to progress from that. I don't see Greece now. Russia possibly. Russia could give one of those teams a problem in the quarterfinal because they have got goals. But for Greece, you know, quarterfinal would be a great achievement.
All right. Well, let's look at Russia's game. I'm talking of the Russians. They faced the Czech Republic, and maybe it's a bit of a worry for the Czechs, Chris, that Rosicki's still their best outfield player, and they're going to rely heavily on Petr Cech in goal. We know all about him, but there are no real young Czechs that I've seen that look to be of that kind of level.
It's an old, decrepit side, isn't it? It's still its roots in 2004. They were in Scotland's group, so I saw a lot of them during the qualifying. They're rubbish.
Is that a technical evaluation? Rubbish.
They're worse than Scotland. Sorry, they're not worse. They're almost as bad as Scotland.
Right.
There's not much creativity. They're a very workmanlike team. I'd be really surprised if they qualified from this group stage. Looking at this, if you can back Russia odds against that, that'd be my shout here. In this
I think that's a shade of odds on, but not prohibitively odds on. Any crumb of comfort for Czechs out there, Wayne, that you can see?
I think, you know, you still got Milan Barros as their main striker, which says, or Milan Barros was a busted flush at Liverpool
Well, there you go.
5 years ago.
Oh, it is odds against. So presumably you think that's a bet as well, Wayne. 11-10 odds against the Russians against the Czechs.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see Czech Republic doing anything at all, in this tournament. I completely agree with Chris. You know, the players. I mean, Rosicky. If you're relying on Rosicky as your main player, yeah, he had a couple of good months to end the season at Arsenal, but he's played about 10 decent games of football in 5 years. So you know, if he's your main man, you've got problems.
By the way, don't think that these two are going to agree on everything throughout the show, because I know a bit later on they won't. Let's have a look though at Group A, the winner. And who's going to qualify with them? I think we're all as one with the Russians, aren't we? The interesting one is who goes through with them, Chris. Do you see Poland not really being valued to qualify 8-11?
Well, I mean, we're here to advise our betting.
Yeah.
Advise our betting point of view. So for me, Greece would be the team to go through with Russia.
Greece is the word, as someone once
Greece
said.
is the word. Olivia Newton-John, wasn't she gorgeous?
Fantastic.
Wasn't she gorgeous?
I was hopelessly devoted. What do you think, Wayne? Are you with Greece as well, or do you think one of the other two could go through with the Russians?
Czech Republic certainly not.
Right.
Yeah, between Poland and Greece, you know, I'd probably go with Poland just because of the Dortmund trio.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, the guy I can't pronounce midfield who's very good for Dortmund. The right back's very good, and also Lewandowski. You know, he could score a hat-trick easily in the group stage.
Okay, so much for Group A. Let's move on to Group B, because this is probably the standout group, because one major nation's going to have to go home. There we have it. Germany, Holland, Portugal. One of the big three there will have to go, and Denmark. Well, many would say the also-rans, but you never know. Of course, they won the tournament famously when they weren't even supposed to be in it a few years ago. So, the first game in this group is Holland versus Denmark. Now, as far as this game is concerned, Holland are going to be big odds-on favourites, 4-7, I think, there or thereabouts. Can you see any way that the Danes can give them a problem, Chris, or not?
Yeah, I can. There's big question marks over the Dutch defence at the moment. I think that's generally, they've got such a wonderful attacking force, but there are real question marks over the Dutch defence at the moment. And
Heitinger and Matthijssen?
Yeah, just not quite as strong as they were 2 years ago. Bit of an aging back, you know, defence. And I like Denmark. I really do. I think they could cause problems. They won a tough qualifying group. They've had, I think it's Morten Olsen's been in charge since 2000. Very settled squad. Eriksen coming in there, young player, showing a lot of promise. I think Denmark for me 4-1 and perhaps to qualify.
All right, well, let's just confirm the odds for that opening game if we can. Mention that Denmark are going to be big outsiders. While we're waiting for that, Wayne, talk to us about Christian Eriksen, because he's apparently wanted by every single big European club. How good is he? He's only 20, I think. He's
outstanding and has been for 3 years. I remember talking to some Dutch sources 2 years ago, and they said, you know, he's the best player in the Ajax team. Or that was when Suarez was still there as well.
So that's high praise.
Yeah, and he technically outstanding, very nimble, very quick. He played very well in a friendly against England as well. If you remember, about 18 months ago, and he completely, you know, ran the game. He's very exciting. I think his levels dropped a bit recently, but he's very exciting. He can, even against this calibre of opponent, he can still be very effective, I think.
Okay, and as far as the Dutch are concerned, do you expect Van Persie to play as a, for want of a better term, a genuine centre forward? Because he doesn't really for Arsenal, does he? He ends up picking it up just over the halfway line. Does he do that for the Dutch as well?
I think he's been in the wing, I think, in the World Cup for Holland.
Yeah, he was in the
He
wing.
had a poor World Cup though, didn't he? I thought.
Yeah, he was nowhere near the level he's been playing at recently. But he will play as a centre forward in this team. It's between him and Huntelaar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Huntelaar's been very, very good this season, but Van Persie will have to start. And then, you know, they'll see how it goes, because they've got Robin either side, and maybe Luc de Jong, or maybe not Dirk Kuyt probably, but, you know, one of those other guys on the other side. So they have got a lot of options. But I think Van Persie will start.
Yeah, if you haven't heard, by the way, Dirk Kuyt leaving Liverpool today. He's off to Fenerbahce, I think he's going to play in Turkey after 6 years at Anfield. Let's move on to what I think is going to be the best game, potentially, of the opening round of 8, and that is Germany versus Portugal. Germany, tipped by so many experts, just odds on, as you can see, 4-5. 11-4 about Paulo Bento's Portugal, 9-4 the draw. Can Portugal afford to lose this game and still go through, Chris? Because it's the toughest possible start for them, isn't it?
It's a brutal start.
Yeah.
I guess they can because you know I'm behind Germany here. I think they win the competition. I think they're capable of getting 9 points out of 9. They've got 30 out of 30 in the qualifiers. I think they can get 9 out of 9. So, and to answer your question, Trevor, I think Portugal can afford to lose this game and still qualify. So Germany for me at 4 to 5 would be the shout here.
Do you think it'll be comfortable, Wayne, for the Germans? If indeed you think Germany will win this?
I don't think it will be comfortable. I think Portugal, they've had a poor qualifying. They only just managed to win in the playoffs. But I think they've got, you know, it's some outstanding talent. You know, how can any team with Cristiano Ronaldo, you know, not be considered? You know,
well, and they've got Nani on the other side as well.
On the other side,
yeah.
You know, I mean, I don't know how they're going to line up. The problem is they don't have a proper centre forward. I mean, they got the Postiga in the squad. Says it all. You know, he was at Tottenham 8 years ago. he's still, you know, missing sitters probably. And so do you play Ronaldo as centre forward? Do you play him out wide? You know, that they will create if you get the ball to them. And they have got good central midfielders, Matinho as well.
Morelos, obviously.
Andre Villas-Boas, wanted to bring in Morelos.
Yeah.
You know, the solid front 5 or 6. I think Portugal could easily, you know, score a goal against Germany, and then Germany got to score a couple. So yeah, a draw 11-4 looks decent.
Who do you think will start up front for Germany? Will it be closer, or will they go for the Bayern Munich man?
I think
it's difficult, isn't it?
Yeah, it's difficult because Gomez.
He was so poor in the Champions League
final,
though.
But you can't judge a striker purely on one game, can you? I mean,
no, but Klose has had a great season. He's done nothing wrong.
And when he puts the German jersey on, he
does. His tournament record is absolutely outstanding. Is he 34 or something?
Something like that.
I mean, he never was fast anyway. But yeah, I mean, his competition record is so strong. But I see him more as the backup.
The backup striker.
Gomez, 40 goals in the team that reached Champions League final. I mean, and 14 the Champions League this season. You have to start with him. He's clumsy, he's awkward, but he gets in the right place.
All right, let's have a look at, if we can, at the odds to who's going to qualify from Group B. There's always one group of death. Journalists love calling a group of death, and this is the one. Here we go. On the left-hand side, by the way, the odds to win the group, and on the right-hand side, to get through to the quarter-finals. Now, it's quite interesting, isn't it, that the Dutch are fairly big odds on 4 to 6 to qualify, Chris, and Portugal you can get odds against.
Yeah, well, there's very little confidence behind Holland at the moment. Everyone I hear is backing them not to qualify. That's what I've been hearing, speaking to people, reading previews and stuff like that. There's not much confidence behind there. And Portugal have always get out of the groups. Portugal, every single European Championships, that's a big thing in their favour there. But I just like Denmark at the prices, 4 to 1. I think it's unlikely to qualify, but I think the odds give them the odds make them tempting for me, 4 to 1. And what is the toughest group ever?
You do realise there are lots of Arsenal fans guffawing at that because they're thinking, well, if he reckons Denmark are going through, that means Bentner's going to have to score a few goals. Is that likely?
Well, he's like closer in Germany, isn't he? When he plays for Denmark, he's really effective and he scores goals. So he seems to thrive when he puts his national jersey on.
I've got a little story about Denmark. I went to the European Championship draw in Kiev, and I just happened to go on the Denmark coach back to the hotel afterwards. It was just me as a journalist and literally the senior delegates from Danish FA and Morten Olsen and his coaching staff. There was a very desolate air in that team coach.
As there would be. Who have you got? Germany, Holland and Portugal.
There was not much confidence in that coach making the 10-minute journey back to the hotel. It's such a difficult group. They are a good side and they're an emerging side. They've got some really, really good young players. Agger for Liverpool, we know how good he is. He's a top centre half. But I don't see him qualifying from this group at all.
All you could say, Chris, I suppose, is there's no pressure on the Danes, really. No one expects them to go through.
No, it's the 1992 about them here, 20 years ago, no pressure whatsoever, and they managed to beat, they got past England, Sweden and France that particular time. But just worth noting, this is the toughest group ever in terms of FIFA rankings average, which is quite interesting.
All right, let me pin you down, chaps, then, because those are the odds, again, we're showing you to qualify. You both reckon Germany are going to go through, of course, but who's going to go through with them, Chris?
I'm just at the prices. That's what we're here today, Denmark.
Yeah, you going Denmark, and Wayne?
I'm going to go with I'm going to go with Portugal at the prices.
Wow. Everyone's opposing the Dutch. I love it. They only got to the final of the last World Cup. They only won all their qualifying games apart from the last one when they were already through.
Yeah.
But we're saying, no, doesn't matter. They are not going to qualify. I wonder whether the chaps here think England can get through to the quarterfinals. We'll be talking Group C and D in just a moment. Welcome back. You're watching Sports Tonight Live with everything you need to know in terms of betting advice before the Euros start in 5 days' time. Now, so far, we've managed to mention Spain about twice. They are the defending champions. They are the tournament favourites, so we should talk about them. And their opening game, and it's a good one, against the Italians. And, of course, I think I'm right in saying until that penalty shootout 4 years ago, I don't think the Spanish had beaten the Italians for something like 80-odd years, I think that's something right, like that. Yeah. But obviously that monkey's off their back now. But it's a fascinating game, this, because we know about the Italians going in off the back of scandal. They've done it before, did it in 2006 and won the World Cup. So we shouldn't write them off because of it, Chris.
No, well, 82 as well, Paolo Rossi. And 82, the star of the show then, and you're under a great cloud at the time. You're right, Italy, for me, are just a tough one to make a call on here, this competition. I'd be falling against them, to be honest. I think it's quite an average-looking team. The stars of yesteryear seem to be gone. They don't score that many goals. Bad result on Friday night. How much will I take out that against Russia? I think Spain will be too strong for them.
What do you make of the Antonio Cassano situation? Because, of course, he had that, I think it was a minor stroke, they called it, in around Christmas time. Came back for the last few games of the season for AC Milan. He's going to start, according to everything I've read. You just wonder whether, after something as serious as that, he can be the same wonderful player as he was before.
It'd seem a miracle if he was, had a really, really strong tournament, considering the build-up. Only a couple of games, to be out for 6 months, and a career-threatening injury as well. Never mind one that affects his whole life. Yeah. So. I just look at the Italy strike force. And I don't see a reliable goal scorer.
Our old friend Balotelli.
Balotelli, you don't know what you're going to get, do you? Mancini couldn't rely on him. He wasn't using him during the time.
It can be brilliant, though.
Can be brilliant. Can be awful. Can get sent off. You just don't know what's going to happen. I mean, apparently he had his. He's been quite sort of training very well and been the model professional during the build-up. But it could soon end with Balotelli. I don't see a regular goal scorer there in this season. I mean, they look good in midfield. They look, Pirlo's had a very good season. De Rossi's an excellent player for Roma. And defensively, I think they've had the best record of any team in the qualifying group defensively. Got a very strong goalkeeper. I just don't see them scoring enough goals. If they're going to go along with this tournament, it's going to be a lot of 1-0s, I think. All
right, well, let's talk about their opponents then, the Spanish, because we know there's no David Villa, joint top scorer at the last World Cup. There's no Carlos Puyol, who's such an inspiration for them in central defence. It looks as though Fernando Llorente is going to come in ahead of Fernando Torres as the man to fill David Villa's boots, but he's a big miss, isn't he?
There's a lot of question marks about Spain at the moment. Villa and Puyol, like you say, and Torres as well. I mean, I read somewhere today that some said Torres is back to his former self. Baloney. I don't know where they're getting that from. He's got a lot to prove still. But yeah, very uneasy favourites, Trevor, Spain. Germany might usurp them by the time we kick off on Friday. And there's a worrying feel about that. Big start as well, 3 tournaments in a row. Can they do that?
And yet, Wayne, we still look at that Spanish midfield with Xavi and Iniesta and Busquets, and you think it's the best midfield in the tournament. You could make an argument for Ozil's Germany, I suppose, but it's only one of the best midfields. And on their day, they're almost unplayable in the middle of the park.
Oh, completely. I mean, when I said Germany's favourites, I had made them very, very narrow favourites over Spain.
Right.
Before I left the house, I was looking at their squad again. Every single player in that squad is a household name. Isn't it? You look at the fringe players, sort of Fabregas, Mata, David Silva, who's not probably going to start the tournament. They're all outstanding, and the level's so high that they don't have the centre forward, but Llorente, we saw with what he was doing for Bilbao, he's a strong player.
Well, that's the fact that they do have that strong side is why they're odds on to win their opening against Italy. 8-11 they are. Not often that Italy are as big as 100-30 in a European Championship group game. Chris, are you semi-tempted or not?
No, because I'm taking a negative stance towards Italy. So no, I think there's a gulf between these sides now, which we'd never really seen.
So you're actually a double negative, because you're negative against Spain and negative against Italy.
I'm negative in terms of Spain winning it.
Okay.
But they'll be too strong. I'll still expect them to get to the final, but I just think in terms of them winning the whole competition, it might be a big ask.
Okay, and as far as Italy defensively, we heard from Wayne. I mean, they always have in the past had wonderful defenders, but maybe Chiellini is obviously decent. But apart from him, they don't seem to have the top European defenders are no longer Italian, are they?
Yeah, the Maldini and Veysey. It's long gone. But having said that, like you said, Wayne, just 2 goals conceded in the qualifiers, so a miserly bunch. But I don't see them scoring many either.
Okay, well let's discuss about whether Irish eyes are going to be smiling at the Euros. Their opening game is against Croatia. These 2 teams obviously are the 2 outsiders in the group because Spain and Italy are heavily fancied. What about the Irish, Chris? I mean, they've sort of got under the radar a little bit, I guess. They're not blessed with too many household names other than, I guess, Gibb and Keane, but and their midfield looks a little weak to me.
It does. They've had some great squads in the past. They haven't qualified for competitions.
Yes.
Much better than what this gang at the moment. But the more I think about it, the more I think they might just get out of this group.
Really?
I really believe that. For a value bet, 4-1. Croatia, this is the last gasp of this generation. Coming at the end of the time, Bilic is leaving for Lokomotiv Moscow. Italy, like I say, I'm very negative about Italy. I think Ireland could beat Italy. I think Trapattoni will be absolutely up for this, and I think he'll mastermind the victory here and send Ireland through to the quarter-finals. I really hope so.
I need to hear from you, Wayne.
Well,
can you concur with that?
I can't. For the reason you look at the central midfield pairing of Whelan and Keith Andrews.
Yes.
That's the reason Trapattoni can't mastermind victory over Italy. Yeah, their defence is decent. Dunn, O'Shea, it's solid, and Keane. If you put him in the right place, he can score.
He doesn't really have a strike partner worthy of the name, though, does he?
No, he doesn't have a strike partner. I mean, Duff's way past his best on the wing as well, and he's got terrible knee problems. I don't see the Ireland, producing the romance or the fairy tale that that a lot of us want to see. I don't think that'll happen. I see Croatia as much stronger.
Yeah, there was a slight worry earlier, by the way. Shea Given, we think he is going to be fit, but he had a bit of a twinge, and of course, if he can't play, I think Ford, the Millwall goalkeeper, is possibly their backup, so that would be a concern. Let's have a look at the odds then for this particular game. Well, it's really interesting. You're going to be filling your boots here, Chris, because they make the Croatians even money favourites. You can bet the Irish 11-5.
Yeah, Croatia horrifically short in the betting here, even money. I think I'd be laying Croatia. I'd be double chance. Draw and Ireland for me. I'm not saying Ireland might win here. I can see them beating Italy, believe it or not. I can see them getting a draw here. So I'd be opposing Croatia. That'd be my main bet in this particular match.
One of the things that would worry me if I was Croatian would be the form of Luka Modric, who in the second half of the season in particular, and I saw a lot of Tottenham games, I thought he was way below the player that we know he really is. And he's going to need to be better than that if they're going to have any chance of getting out of the group.
Yeah, I think he's clearly unsettled. I'd be surprised to see him playing for Spurs in August. Yeah. I think not qualifying for the Champions League is probably a killer blow to his Spurs career, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think with Modric, I mean, he began the season brilliantly, like a lot of the Tottenham players did, and then their level all dropped below after Christmas because they're playing every game, and Harry Redknapp never sort of managed his squad over the season. That's a factor. He's played a lot of football in the last 4 or 5 years. I think it's a big tournament for Modric. Like Chris says, he is playing for a move. Tottenham didn't make Champions League. They have to sell. So they've got 35 million black hole in their account. He is worth 35 million. You do the maths, and it all adds up for him to leave. He would walk in any side in that tournament, including Spain's and including Germany's. He is one of the outstanding players outside of the big countries. I think he can be very effective. And these sort of these European games where it's all about dominating possession. It's all about being sort of tactically strong in midfield and then just getting 1 or 2 chances and putting them away. He's the sort of player that helps teams dominate, helps Croatia dominate the games. And in Jelavic, they've got a striker who we know is in great form. I think they're dangerous.
Okay, well, it's neck on the blocks time, chaps, because we can have a look at the odds to qualify from this group. And of course, the winners stroke runners up may very well end up playing England if they get through. There we go. Spain, as you'd imagine, big favourites. Italy, very strong second favourites. But if you fancy an upset, 13-8 Croatia, Ireland at 7-2. Obviously, chaps, you both, from the sound of it, reckon that Spain are going to go through. Who would you fancy to join them? Chris, first of all?
For me, at the prices again, it's Ireland. Italy
Ireland,
to flop again. Ireland to recreate the spirit of 1994 and beat Italy.
Don't think Wayne's going to agree with you.
Croatia, 13-8. Yeah, that's my money's going.
I love doing this show. So far, we've kiboshed the Dutch, and now we've hammered the Italians. And the tournament hasn't even started yet. Absolutely brilliant. Right, let's get on to the group that we're probably most interested in, because it's England's group, Group D. And Roy's boys open their campaign with a game against France. It's a week tomorrow. 2 wins in his 2 games in charge so far. Can't do much better than that. How convinced or otherwise, though, have you been, Chris, first of all?
I think you've got to be happy. 2 wins. You beat Norway, decent side. I think last night you got the job done. I thought Belgium would get something for that game. It's not the most attractive football. It's functional football. He's playing. He's using the resources he has in the most effective way. If you want success, you want a manager to put a square peg in a round peg in a round hole, and I think he's doing that with England just now. But I don't think that's enough.
All right, how many out of 10 for last night's win against Belgium for you, Wayne?
Result 10 out of 10. Performance maybe 4 out of 10.
Really?
Yeah, I mean Belgium came to Wembley and dominated the match. In England, had Oxford Chamberlain a couple of early chances. Welbeck took his goal brilliantly. It was an excellently manufactured goal. Yeah. Second half, England were clinging on. With the Roy Hodgson, you know what you're going to get. Safe, conservative organisation. Uses what he gets. Uses what he's got at his disposal. Reasonably well. Apart from at Liverpool, of course, but I think with England, it's quite an impressive start. Underwhelming. The thing that England are benefiting from, there's expectations have never been so low. Get into a tournament.
Well, that's true. And what worries me though is that it seems clear now, even after just 180 minutes of Roy Hodgson, that England are going to play counter-attacking football. And apart from maybe the Greeks a few years ago, maybe the Italians on occasion, you don't win tournaments generally playing counter-attacking football. I don't think there's enough tempo in midfield, is there?
That's true, but also in terms of progressing, say, to the semi-finals, only in a tournament, in a major tournament, only 2 or 3 play really outstanding football. Like you think of Spain and Argentina in the last World Cup. You don't get sort of 8 or 9 of them. I mean, Russia did in 2008,
and the Dutch did.
And the Dutch as well.
Yeah. So you don't get loads of them playing brilliant football. Maybe 3 or 4. England, if they're going to progress semi-finals, they'll do it playing functional football, because England have got functional players, haven't they? I mean, exactly. There's no fantasy to England's team until Rooney comes back from suspension. You have to make do and mend, and that's probably why the FA have gone for Roy Hodgson.
What worries me slightly as well from an England point of view is, and of course in the 2 friendlies so far, England have scored the opening goal on both occasions in the first half. If they concede first against France, which there's every possibility that they will, then it becomes different. Then you can't just play that patient, sitting, waiting game. And with players like Ribéry and Nasri and Benzema, a top-class striker, England could be in trouble if they go behind.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, and this game is the absolute key, isn't it? The first game of the competition. It's key from a team perspective, a nation perspective, in terms of how the nation. If England beat France here, I can see the expectations rising. And from a betting perspective, I see England getting chopped into 71 here if they beat France next Monday. So this game is absolutely key.
Yeah, I mean, Spain in the last World Cup was exception. It proves the rules, and then they lost to Switzerland in the first game. But generally speaking, it's all about momentum. You have to win or draw your first game to get it going.
It's fascinating how the bookies see this one. Look at this. They cannot choose. It's Ichi Peachy. Now, this might be unpatriotic, and listen, I want England to win this tournament as much as any Englishman, but it doesn't mean I have to support them with my wallet. And at 6-4, I'm with France here. I'm sorry, I have to be.
Yeah, that would seem to be the popular bet here. France at 6-4. It's just a tough game. I wouldn't be getting involved in this game with huge confidence. It's a watch and brief.
They're equally unpredictable, aren't they?
I know.
So, you look at the France and England squads. Yeah. France have got more flair, obviously, with the players you just mentioned, but also, they're not massively strong in central midfield. There's question marks over their defence. And England have got a stronger goalkeeper. So you look at the squads, there's not a massive bit of difference. France, though, with Rooney without England, France looks stronger to me.
How much have the French improved, Wayne, under Laurent Blanc? Because at the World Cup, they were even worse than us, and that was saying something.
Yeah. You speak to French journalists who obviously watch all their games, they don't think that much. They don't think he's actually getting the best out of the players he's got at his disposal. They're questioning his decisions and things like that. Obviously, they're used to, the Blanc generation, the Henry generation, Zidane, etc. They were so good. They've been spoiled, haven't they? And they don't think he's getting as much out of these players as he could. On paper, Villa, Ribéry, Nasri, Benzema should be better than England, I think.
Interesting. Very brief chat about the other game in the group. Just literally a sentence or two. It is Ukraine and Sweden, of course. And you quite fancy the Swedes, don't you?
I do. I think Sweden could go quite far in this competition. The new approach, more attacking approach. Eric Harman, the new coach. I think Sweden here.
Wayne?
I fancy Sweden. I think Ukraine are probably the worst, or maybe Czech Republic are the second worst team at the tournament. They're still relying on Shevchenko as their main centre forward. He was passed it 5 years ago, wasn't he? So I don't see them being a threat. Sweden, they look good to me.
Well, they are the slight outsiders, as it were. Certainly a bigger price than the Ukraine. The draw's the outsider of 3 at 9 to 4, but you can back the Swedes at 8 to 5. And in terms of qualifying from this group, and this is going to be fascinating as well, because we know England and France will be the two fancied sides, but I think, gents, you have a contrary view. I know you have, Chris, anyway.
Sweden to qualify for me, 7 to 4. I really think there's not much between these four sides. I think
are they overplaying home advantage, making Ukraine a shorter price than Sweden to go through?
Completely. Yeah. It's all about home advantage, isn't it? For those odds. It's not based on Ukraine have had no competitive football, and they've also, they haven't got a squad to support that at all. Sweden, very, very good odds to me, I think.
What can Ibrahimovic do? Because I think he's had a good qualifying period, a lot of assists as well as a lot of goals. If he can, inspire the rest of the team, I think they can seriously do some damage in Group 2.
And Elmander's had a great first season in Turkey, hasn't he?
He has. We can see in the Premier League, he can score. I mean, the thing is, though, they're not going to play both of them, are they?
Yeah,
it's unlikely. So it's going to be Ibrahimovic spearheading everything for Sweden.
So, do you both think Roy's boys are out or not?
I think it's going to be quite a challenge without Rooney for 2 games for England to qualify. I don't make them favourites for the group. I make France favourite for the groups, and then it's either Sweden or England for me.
I think I'm an odds man. The odds on them not making the quarterfinals appeal. So yeah, the odds are wrong, put it that way, and for that reason I'd be opposing England in the groups.
You heard it first here. Book your holidays for 2 weeks' time, because England won't still be in it. We're back in a couple of minutes looking at speciality markets, including the Golden Boot. See you then. Welcome back to the final part here on Sports Tonight Live, talking about all things betting ahead of the Euros. We've only got 5 days to go. Bookmakers love bringing out speciality bets because we all like to have a little bit of fun. I guess they spend like 2 or 3 weeks sort of huddling in a corner thinking of these odds, do they?
Yeah, usually the quirky members of bookmaking staff are generally quite annoying. We'll come up with these kind of markets. They're usually quite unfunny, and it seems to be the case again this summer.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the Golden Boot in a minute, but sometimes, Chris, you can actually find some value in one of these bets because maybe they're not quite as researched as some of the obvious ones, the group betting and the match betting.
Yeah, it's a good point. You'll get your sort of work experience guy, a guy on like 13 grand a year compiling these kind of bets. So he's wet between the ears, and you could definitely see a few mistakes and wrecks here. Definitely worth a decent look.
That was an interesting one, wasn't there, with Sven Eriksson doing the robot thing and won the 2006 World Cup. So I think the odds England to win the World Cup about, say, 5 to 1, and then Sven Eriksson did the robot was like 10 to 1. So basically, and Sven had said, "I will do the robot to win the World Cup." So you could be getting 10 to 1 odds on.
I'm almost glad we didn't win it because I wouldn't want to see that.
Worth it.
Let's put some odds up for you then, so you can see exactly what we mean here. Now, these have been provided by our friends at Coral. England to lose on penalties. We know only too well how often that happens, and it's a 6 to 1 shot. Of course, we've got to get out the group for that to be a possibility. Germany beat England on penalties. Well, that always happens when we play them. And this is an interesting one. John Terry carded out he actually has to miss the final due to suspension, as of course he did with Chelsea in the Champions League. But again, chaps, we need to get to the semis for that to happen.
It's a big ask. It's a big ask. And,
those odds don't get me excited.
No, I would agree.
Well, let me try with these then. England to win every game in 90 minutes. This is for optimistic patriots only. 120. Well, it's a throwaway fiver to win, 700 and whatever it is.
My money's staying in my wallet on that one as well.
And my favourite one, England to beat Germany 4-2 in the final, as happened famously 46 years ago. You can have 1966 to 1.
That's good. That's good, Trevor. I backed a mention of 1966 in a bet market odds of 2-1 last week. So that's good. You've mentioned 1966 again. Brilliant.
I know the Scots always enjoy it when we do that. Now let's talk Golden Boot, because this is a really my favourite market, I think, in every major tournament. The shorter price runners very rarely interest me in these tournaments. We've got the likes of Gomez and Klose and Van Persie. Here we go. Benzema's up there as well. Ronaldo. The two that I've put on the end there, for a reason I've done this. They're not the 5th and 6th in the betting, but Kurzkov and Pavlyuchenko. We think Kurzkov's going to start for the Russians. In a weak group, they could, you only need 4 goals to cop the each way, usually in this market, for a quarter of the odds first 4.
Yeah, and their countryman Oleg Salenko exploited that back in 1994 by getting a joint share of the goal at a massive price.
Yeah.
But I'd start here by looking at the groups. Which groups will yield goals? Which group will be a chance for target men to get on the score sheet? Group A and D kind of fit that mould, but I'm not expecting loads of goals in Group A, so that might be a bit of a handicap. So I'm looking towards Group D.
Okay, so you're looking towards what, a Swede, are you, for value?
Yeah, I am, man. I always look at Swedes.
So Ibrahimovic?
Well,
you normally look at Swedish women rather than...
I do. They're impeccable. But yeah, Ibrahimovic, I don't know what price is available, but I imagine about 66, 80 to 1.
Okay.
It's a great season this year, probably his best season in about 7-8 years, and I think he can be a potent
Any
force.
thoughts, very quickly, Wayne?
Yeah, I think 5 goals is normally enough to win it. So if you get a hat-trick in the group stage, you're well on the way. I could easily see a Lewandowski for Poland, Ibrahimovic for Sweden, getting a sort of 2 or 3 goals. Also, whoever takes the penalties. Cristiano Ronaldo takes all the penalties.
Always look at penalty takers. Yeah. In a word, and I mean a word, who's going to win Euro 2012, Chris?
Germany.
Wayne? You see, the panel are united, just like West Germany and East Germany. And I think Germany are going to win it as well, but Portugal might be worth a sneaky each-way bet. Thank you very much to Chris and to Wayne. Been fascinating. Hope you've enjoyed it at home, and the best of luck with whatever bets you choose to have on Euro 2012. It all starts on Friday. From all of us here, bye-bye.
Stay ahead of the game with Sports Tonight Live. Don't miss a thing. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Search for Sports Tonight Live on Facebook and like our fan page. Follow Sports Tonight TV on Twitter and tweet us your thoughts and opinions. Sports Tonight Live, it's the platform for the fans.